So we were discussing X-linked dominant inheritance if the mother is affected. We already saw the possibility if what will happen if the father is affected in an X-linked dominant inheritance. So if the father is affected, the father has only one X chromosome, and if he's affected, then it means he has the defective X chromosome, and all his daughter will get this defective X chromosome from him, and 100% of the daughters will have the disease, and 0% of the sons will have the disease. And if we talk overall, then 50% of the children will have the disease and 50% of the children will be normal. Now we are discussing X-linked dominant inheritance if the mother is affected. Now, if the mother is affected, we can suppose that one X chromosome is defective and one is normal. And mother will pass this X chromosome to his sons as well as to his daughters, her daughters. So if there are two sons, then one will get the defective X chromosome and one will get the normal X chromosome. So out of two sons, one will be affected and one will be normal. Now let's talk about the girls or the daughters. Again, because either this mother can inherit this abnormal X chromosome to her daughter, or this normal X chromosome to her daughter. So again, out of two daughters, only one will be affected. So out of four children, two will be affected. One son and one daughter will be affected. So if we talk overall, then 50% of the children will have the disease and 50% of the children will be normal. Similar was the case in case of autosomal dominant inheritance, that 50% of the children has the disease and 50% of the children were normal. So the pattern of this X-linked dominant inheritance, if the mother is affected, is kind of similar to autosomal dominant inheritance. I hope it's clear and there is no confusion.
So in this X-linked dominant, only one defective gene is required to.
Yes, whenever you see the word dominant, then only one defective gene is required to cause the disease, because the gene is dominant and it will suppress the other normal gene. Because it's a dominant gene, it's a dominant pattern of inheritance. By dominant means we say that this defective gene, this is dominant to that normal gene. It will not express the normal gene. So that's why only one defective gene can cause the disease if the gene is dominant. Any more questions? Okay, let's see. Now, X-linked recessive. If the mother is carrier, so the mother is carrier, and we are talking about X-linked recessive. So X-linked recessive. Recessive means two defective genes are required to produce the disease. So if someone have to have the disease, he should have two defective genes of an X-linked recessive disease. So now let's consider the possibilities that, again, if we are talking about a recessive disease, then in recessive disease crossover, you need to remember that there will be carrier states as well. So you will be asked about how much children are carrier, how much children are affected, how much are unaffected, etc., etc. So again, the mother is a carrier, then the disease is S-linked recessive. So again, the mother has two chromosomes. One has a recessive gene and one has a normal gene. So again, one son will get this recessive gene, and because the son has only one chromosome, so one recessive gene can cause the disease in males. One recessive gene can cause the disease in males, though two recessive genes are required to cause a disease. But because uh, there is no second X chromosome in males, so that's why only one recessive gene can cause the disease in males. So again, because we have got that the mother is carrier, so we will focus on the mother. Father is unaffected, so we do not need to look at the father. Now, because the mother has two X chromosome, one is uh, normal and one is abnormal. How did we know that? Because in the question they mentioned that the mother is carrier. Carrier means one normal gene, one recessive gene. Now let's consider the possibilities. Two sons and two daughters. One son will get this defective X chromosome, and one son will get this normal X chromosome. And who got this defective recessive X chromosome, he will get the disease because in males only one recessive gene can cause the disease. Now let's consider what will happen to the females or to the daughters. So one daughter will get this defective X chromosome, and because she has a normal X chromosome, so she will produce a carrier state. And one will get this normal chromosome from the mother and the second normal X chromosome from the father. So one daughter will be unaffected and one will be carrier. So out of four children, one will be affected and one will be carrier. Or 25% of the children will be affected and 25% of the children will be carrier. 50% of the daughters will be carrier and 50% of the sons will be affected. Is it clear now? The simple and easy way is to focus on the person who is either a carrier. Look at the stem of the question and see if they are talking about the father or the mother, and then you can easily predict that what will happen in sons and in daughters. And you can also collect the collective results, calculate the collective results as well as results for daughters and sons. I hope it's clear to everyone.
Can you please explain that again? It's not clear to me. I mean,
Okay,
like
now
how come the mother? Uh,
let's do it again. Then it will be a little more clear. So X-linked recessive carrier mother. Now X-linked and recessive mean two genes are required to cause a disease. Is that right? Now
yes.
the mother is a carrier. Now from this information, what we can say that mother is a carrier and the disease is X-linked. So carrier means the mother has one normal X chromosome and one abnormal X chromosome. Now there are four possibilities that two sons and two daughters will be produced. Now out of those two sons, one will get this abnormal X chromosome from the mother and one will get normal one. The one who get this abnormal X chromosome, he will get the disease. Is
But
it clear up till now?
isn't it the two abnormal genes are required because father is normal. So if he
Two
gets this,
abnormal genes mean uh, normally in the body, there are two copies of every gene.
Right.
So in recessive diseases, in X-linked recessive diseases, why both the copies should be defective to cause the disease? Because in recessive diseases, if one copy is normal and one is abnormal, then the normal copy will produce his proteins and it will not let this abnormal genes perform his function. It will suppress this recessive gene because it's recessive, it's not dominant.
Right.
But in case of males, there is only one X chromosomes. So the genes that are present on the X chromosomes, the males have only one copies of the genes that are present on the X chromosome. There is no copy of the genes that are present on the X chromosome in males.
Right.
So if a male get a defective gene or a recessive gene, then there is no normal gene to suppress its protein formation, because there is no second X chromosome. There's only a Y chromosome, and Y chromosome has only like one or two genes, such as S or Y gene, that determine the gender of the fetus or of the child. So that's
Right.
why, though in recessive diseases, two genes are required to cause the disease, but because male only have one and there is no normal copy to suppress its protein formation, so that's why uh, even one defective recessive gene can cause the disease in males.
Right.
That's why X-linked diseases are common in males, and in females they produce a carrier state, or they less
Right.
commonly affect the females. So is it clear now?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Now, modes of inheritance of autosomal recessive, autosomal dominant, X-linked recessive diseases. Autosomal recessive if both parents are carriers. Both parents are carrier means both of them have one normal gene and one abnormal gene. 25% of a chance of a child to be affected, and 50% chance of a child to be a carrier. So if both the parents are carrier, it means both of them have one abnormal and one normal chromosome. So again, there are four possibilities: two sons and two daughters. Now, what are the possibilities that a child will have both the defective genes? Both parents are carrier. So let's first focus on the father. Father is a carrier. So he has one normal gene and one abnormal gene. So he will, one son will get the normal gene and one will get the abnormal gene. Like in this scenario, like we discussed here, that father is a carrier, mother is a carrier. So there are four possibilities. This one, there is only this one will combine with this one, and the child will get both the defective genes. This one will combine with this one. It will produce a carrier state. This one will combine with this one, a carrier state. This one will combine with this one. So 25% chance of a child to get affected if we are talking about an autosomal recessive disease and both the mother and father are carriers, and 50% chance of the child to get uh, uh, to be a carrier, and 25% of a chance of a child to be uh, unaffected. In autosomal diseases, they will not ask you about male and female children or daughters and son. So you need to remember the percentages as overall, because autosomal diseases, they affect the uh, daughters and sons equally. So autosomal recessive is if both parents are carrier, 25% of child to be affected, 25% chance of a child to be unaffected, 50% chance of a child to be a carrier. Example of autosomal recessive diseases include cystic fibrosis, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, etc. Now let's talk about autosomal dominant inheritance. Autosomal dominant inheritance is if one parent is affected, either mother is affected or father is affected, what will happen? Because only one gene is required to cause the disease. So the father is affected. If the father is affected, one of his son will get this affected gene and one of his daughter will get this affected gene. So 50% of the children will be affected and 50% of the children will be unaffected, and 0% of the children will have a carrier state, because in dominant diseases there is no carrier state. So in autosomal dominant diseases, if one parent is affected, 50% of a child to be affected and 25% of a chance of a grandchild to be affected, because out of 16 only 4 will be affected. We discussed that. And examples of autosomal dominant diseases, they include Huntington disease, neurofibromatosis, autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, BRCA gene, which can cause breast cancer, von Willebrand disease, and hereditary spherocytosis. All these are example of autosomal dominant diseases that you need to remember for Plab 1. Now, X-linked recessive disorders. If the mother is carrier, means one normal X chromosome and one abnormal X chromosome. So one daughter will get this recessive gene and one son will get this recessive gene. Out of two sons, one will get the normal gene. So 50% chance of a male child to be unaffected and 50% chance of a male child to be affected, because one son will get the normal gene and one will get the abnormal gene. If the father is affected, with an X-linked recessive disease, because X-linked disease cannot be passed from father to the son, so 0% chance of a male child to be affected and 100% chance of a female child to be carrier if the disease is X-linked recessive. If it's X-linked dominant, then 100% chance of a female child to be affected. Example of X-linked recessive disease include Duchenne muscular dystrophy, hemophilia, G6PD deficiency, etc. Now let's do some diseases that we didn't do in other chapters, some genetic diseases.